I get it, guys. Pocket Wi-Fi's, eSIM, SIMs. What do you pick? It was one of the hardest decisions we had to make when we started traveling, considering our livelihood depends on good internet. So in this video, we're gonna go through everything: SIMs, Pocket Wi-Fi's, eSIMs, so that you get the lowdown on what you need to do if you wanna go and travel and still be able to work or play on the internet. And make sure to stick to the very end, because we found this 1 + 1 = 3 strategy that may be the perfect fit for you guys, because it was a perfect fit for us. So let's get into it. So for those who don't know who I am, my name is Jimmy, and I am 1/4 of the Mitches on the Horizon family, and we've been traveling full-time as a family for over a year. We're actually on our 2nd year of traveling full-time as a family, and because of that, you can imagine that we use a lot of internet, between me and my wife needing it for our multiple online businesses that support the traveling that we do, to our kids doing their schooling online. It's really important to have internet wherever we go. It doesn't matter if we're in a big city, that's pretty straightforward. You got Wi-Fi, you got most Airbnbs have Wi-Fi, but what do you do when you're on a train, say from Kuala Lumpur to Ipoh? Or what do you do when you're on a bus or a ferry between islands in the Philippines? What do you do in those situations? And that's where it gets a little bit more complex. And that's why there's so many options out there for travelers when it comes to portable internet and mobile internet solutions. So we're gonna start with the basics. What is a pocket Wi-Fi? So a pocket Wi-Fi is essentially a Wi-Fi that can be carried around. Now, some of the amazing features of Pocket Wi-Fi especially is that it can support a lot of devices on it at any one time. This one in particular can support 36 devices at any one time on it, which is a huge advantage. But the key factor of having Pocket Wi-Fi is that you can carry it with you and take it anywhere you go, and it's on its own battery. So this thing can last like 11 hours on its own battery, which makes it a very, very handy thing to have. And it doesn't matter if you happen to run off with your phone, the whole family still has internet, which is what makes these amazing. So I'm gonna go into the pros and cons of these in a minute, but that's what essentially we're talking about when we're talking about a pocket Wi-Fi, is essentially just a data terminal that you can put in your pocket. Okay, you should know what SIMs are, but essentially SIM cards, pretty straightforward. The little card that goes into your phone, and that's what connects you to the internet through your phone a lot of the time. So SIM cards, they've been around forever, they're very robust, and generally most providers throughout the world will use SIM cards to connect you to the internet. Not really much to talk about there, but we will go into why we do have a lot of them towards the end of this video. Now, your potential third option is something like an eSIM. Now, when we started traveling, I had no idea what an eSIM was, but luckily we actually had phones that were capable of taking them. Essentially what they are is a SIM that you don't need a SIM card for. It's basically a digital SIM that goes in your phone, and you register it with a phone company. There's special eSIM companies out there, but you register it with them, and that basically acts like a SIM in your phone. Look, I'm not the most technical person in the world, but that's my understanding of how it works. So there's companies like Fly. There's actually companies in each country you go into that specialize in eSIMs, and they basically, you give them your phone's ID, and then they activate an eSIM on there for a period of time with a set amount of data. And that's effectively what an eSIM is. So let's talk about a few of the pros and cons of each of these systems, because they all have pros and cons, and that is why we have all three. Let's go back to the Pocket Wi-Fi. Of all the things we have, this is what I prefer the most out of all of three of our options, but it doesn't mean it's the best. So one of the massive pros of a Pocket Wi-Fi like this is a G Local Me, and this has been absolutely amazing. It's not cheap, but when your livelihood depends on good internet, they come in handy. One of the pros of this is the fact that it has its own charge. So yes, it's annoying that you have to put it on charge at nighttime, and I see people talking about that as a negative, but for me personally, I like the added reassurance that this has got its own 10 or 11 hours of charge, as well as my phone. So we can be out, and we use this in railway trips and on ferries, and it has been really nice to know that this is charging separate to the phone. So when the kids are playing on the phone, or we're using the phone, we're not running down our ability to use the internet. We can just turn this on and off as we need. Now, the other massive pro of this model in particular, which is that G Local I was telling you about, is that it actually acts as a portable charging bank as well. So if you are in a pinch, you can actually take battery power out of this and put it into your phone, which has actually saved us in one time specifically where our phone ran out of battery and we weren't anywhere near a charger, and we remembered that this thing was fully charged, which got our phone up to 70%, which was obviously enough to get us by, and we were in the middle of the jungle, so it was like a bit of a life-saving moment. So you don't sneeze on the fact that this has its own battery. And another massive pro of this Pocket Wi-Fi unit is the ability for it to connect to lots of devices at once. So you can have up to 36 devices on this, which makes it really practical. You can just plonk it in the middle of the Airbnb that you're staying at, and the kids can connect to it, we can connect to it, and everyone's happy. But also it has an amazing connection. So we've been in places where we haven't been able to get connection with our phones, but this thing still has 2 or 3 bars and we can get the job done. And one place in particular that came in handy was the Cameron Highlands, where we're really high up. I wasn't able to get any data with my phone, but then I put this up high and I was able to get 3 bars, which meant we could still work and still do school. Another awesome feature of most Pocket Wi-Fis is the ability to take SIM cards as well as use eSIM. So the technology in this is an eSIM essentially. It doesn't necessarily have to be a phone, it just has to be technology. It has to be available technology on the device. So not all phones have eSIMs, as do not all Wi-Fis have eSIMs either, but this has eSIM as well as traditional SIM. And this is a big plus because I'll get into it in a minute, but this is what we use and this is our 1 + 1 = 3. Now, let's talk about some of the cons of these units. So one of the biggest cons of these units in particular, and I can only speak to the G Local Me because this is the one we have, is that you do have to carry it around with you. It's another device that when you're traveling around, you have to cart with you. So that's another thing you have to put in your purse or in your backpack. It's another thing that could potentially get broken or stolen. And that is pretty inconvenient, to be completely honest. The other thing I would say about the G Local specifically, and I can't talk to other Pocket Wi-Fis, but I think a lot of them are like this, is that it's locked to G Local's network. You may think that traditional SIM cards may not be useful considering that there's eSIMs. Well, the biggest con of eSIMs, which we'll go into in a minute, is the fact that not all devices are capable of doing it, whereas every device is capable of taking a SIM card. And so that's one massive positive of SIM cards. And the other beauty about SIM cards is you generally get pretty cheap data when it comes to SIM card. Now, we have this awesome little case for ours. I'm gonna post the link to this because this is one of the best buys we've ever had, to be honest. Our SIM cards used to just rattle around in our bag. Now they're all sorted into countries and things like that. So we basically tend to pick up a SIM card in every country that we go to. And then we go on and we have a look at what good tourist SIM cards there are. And then we pick that up because it gives us versatility. We can put that SIM card in our phone. We can put that SIM card in that G Local Me. Both can potentially have internet. And generally the local data is way cheaper than anything you get from an eSIM or say G Local's eSIM version, or even your international roaming. So that's one reason why we like SIM cards. Now, one of the biggest cons about SIM cards is that it takes up a SIM card slot in your phone. So it's all right if you have a phone that has 2 SIM card slots. I'm very lucky that the phone I use every day has 2 SIM card slots, so it's not as big an issue. But if you have a phone that can only take 1 SIM card, then you're gonna be swapping this SIM card out with your home SIM card anytime you wanna receive a call or make a call, or even use a thing like say TikTok. So if you're producing content and you are on TikTok a lot, if you post a video with a local SIM card, it will post the video to that country. So sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes you want to post videos for Australia or the US, where you'll have to swap in your local SIM card to be able to do that, which is very annoying. That is one massive con about SIM cards. And that's really the only con of actual SIM cards when you're traveling, is that just constantly swapping them in and out of your phone. So you got a protective case on your phone and you're gonna have to swap it out and all the time to do that. And you end up with a lot of them, which is pretty annoying as well. And working out which SIM card is for which country and which one has data and which one doesn't have, it just logistically is a little bit of a pain. But overall, these are the tried and true method. We still, even though we have access to eSIMs and access to the G Local, we still carry SIM cards because they do have a value, because they're used everywhere. You can buy an old $20 phone at a local market and be able to put a SIM card in it and you'll generally get Wi-Fi. Now, the other thing I will mention about this is nothing to do with the device itself, it's more the plans you go on. You need to make sure that you find a SIM card plan that allows you to have a mobile hotspot. A lot of the cheap SIM cards with the cheap data won't let you have multiple people on the same network. So when you try and connect another phone to it, it will just disconnect both of you. That is a big thing because generally with us, there'll be 4 or 5 devices connected at any one time between the kids' computers for school, a TV, say for instance, and our work stuff. So we need to make sure, you need to make sure that the SIM you get allows multiple devices, and generally you have to pay slightly more for that, but it's well worth it. So eSIMs are relatively new technology, so not all phones are gonna have it. So you really need to make sure that your phone, if you wanna use eSIMs, that your device is available to do it. One of the positives is that it's a very easy process. You go onto a Holofly, things like that, you go on there, you register your phone, and then you can just buy credit and all of a sudden your phone has internet, which is amazing, right? That's really, really good. There is a few cons to eSIMs though. The data is super expensive on eSIMs. There's no real cheap eSIM providers out there. Because of that, the data can be expensive. So for us, eSIMs are just like an emergency worst case scenario, mainly in the G Local, because it is expensive data. You're better off buying a traditional SIM and putting that in your phone because you're gonna get 30, 40, 50 gigs for $20 as opposed to an eSIM where you might get 5 gigs for $20. So if you're using a lot of data, things like Netflix Netflix or you're playing online games or you're uploading a video and things like that, you really need to consider that because you're going to chew through that data pretty quick and it's going to get very expensive. Another problem with eSIMs is that there's no portability between devices. So let's say I've got this phone here and then the phone that I'm recording on, and I want to use the data that's on there. I wanted to put the SIM in there because I was maybe going out. You can't just transfer that eSIM over. So that's really an annoying part of that, is that the device that the eSIM is on kind of has to be with you all the time. And if you and your partner say want to split up, because what we do is we have one SIM for each country and just put it in one phone. So if we get separated, it can get quite complicated. But what we do with traditional SIMs is we'll take the SIM out of one phone and put it in the other phone so that the person that is out can have data. It's not something you think about when you first start traveling, but it does become an issue as you become more seasoned and you're willing to explore outside of just being one person or two people. So I think if you're a single traveler, eSIM makes a great emergency SIM, something that you can have if your traditional SIM dies or you can't find a traditional SIM or you just get to the airport and you need to connect to the internet. That can be a really, really good option. Now, I mentioned that we do something that's a bit of a 1 + 1 = 3, and I'm going to explain what that is right now. So what we actually do is we do a combination of this and this. So we'll always buy a traditional SIM in the country that we're in because it is a lot cheaper than using eSIMs. So we'll go and buy a Globe 5G SIM card from, say, the Philippines and get unlimited data for $30, $40 a month. And then what we generally do is we'll put that SIM card in this device, and that becomes our mobile internet, and then we just carry this around with us. This does a few things. Firstly, it allows us a bit of versatility because then whoever is out is going to have access to the internet, and it just means we have to keep this thing charged. But it can, you put the SIM card in this and then all the benefits that this Globe SIM has goes into this, and then you get all the benefits of this device, which is lots of people can connect to it. It's a portable battery pack. It doesn't burn your phone down if lots of people are using it. You don't have to have a mobile hotspot turned on, just things like that. So that's our 1 + 1 = 3 is we'll generally buy a SIM card from the country that we're in, a tourist SIM, and then we'll go and whack it into a device like this G Local Me and then use that as our internet solution for the whole family. I would personally highly recommend, if there's multiple people that are going to be using devices and the internet in your family or the way you travel, then just get one of these. They're not the cheapest out there, but as far as features goes, this is the system to get, this G Local. It's tried and true. We've been on the ocean, we've been in the jungles, and we've still been able to get internet with this where our phone hasn't been able to get. All right, guys, so that's how we handle internet, and that is the difference between an eSIM, a SIM, and a portable Wi-Fi. So let us know in the comments, how do you guys do your internet when you're traveling? Do you use a Pocket Wi-Fi? Do you just use traditional SIM cards, or do you use eSIMs? Or is there another solution that's popped up on the market that we're not aware about? Let us know in the comments. And if you have any questions that you'd like us to answer, considering we've traveled for a long time now, let us know in the comments and we'll answer those. And also make sure to subscribe. Hopefully you enjoy your next adventure, and we'll catch you all on the horizon.